Hello, time management fans, and welcome to this issue of Time Management Magazine. Today, we are joined by the legendary David Allen. David Allen is widely recognized as the world's leading expert on personal and organizational productivity. His 30-year pioneering research and coaching to corporate managers and CEOs of some of America's most prestigious corporations and institutions has earned him Forbes' recognition as one of the top 5 executive coaches in the U.S. and Business 2.0 magazine's inclusion in their 2006 list of the 50 who matter now. Time magazine called his flagship book, Getting Things Done, the definitive business self-help book of the decade. Fast Company magazine called David one of the world's most influential thinkers in the area of personal productivity for his outstanding programs and writing on time and stress management. The power of aligned focus and vision and his groundbreaking methodologies in management and executive peak performance. David is the international best-selling author of Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity, Ready for Anything, 52 Productivity Principles for Work and Life, and Making It All Work, Winning at the Game of Work and the Business of Life. Well, thank you for joining us today, Mr. Allen.
Oh, David, please. And you say legend. There's a part of me that goes, that's so strange because all I did was just recognize what we all do. I didn't really make up anything new. I really just recognize something perhaps in a new way that we all do that when it works, and sort of have made that much more popular and accessible, I suppose.
And that's kind of my first question, because I remember reading Getting Things Done when it first came out, and my first thought was there was nothing, to my mind, there was nothing out there even close to it. So my first question is kind of like, how did you come up with the idea for Getting Things Done?
Well, I was not in the time management field, if you will. I was in the how do you get control of your life sort of field, and that's really kind of what time management is really about. And I suppose the good news was that I never really did much research or looking into other things other than just my own personal application of how do I get my life under control, and sort of came up with my own techniques and had some great mentors and learned some great techniques from other people. I kind of thought I was the last guy in the world to learn all this stuff. I figured people who were making a lot more money than me out there had already figured this stuff out. And then at some point, I say at some point, it took me 25 years to actually figure out what I'd figured out, so that I was willing to sit down and actually write that book, Getting Things Done, after really 30 years of banging around with some of the best and brightest and busiest people on the planet and testing out some of these things that I'd come up with and discovering that, hey, it actually, invariably worked. There was never an exception to people who applied these principles that didn't improve their sense of control and focus in their life and work, and that it was also unique, that nobody else seemed to have pulled this together like I did. So I'm kind of as surprised as you were that nothing, was out there, that mapped to this. But I think it took, to your credit, it takes a bit of sophistication and a good bit of experience, I think, for people to recognize what sits inside of GTD. You first of all have to have been invested in systems to begin with. GTD is not something somebody picks up who's never had a system in their life, never even felt they needed a system. It's not going to probably ring their bell. In other words, it's for anyone, but not for everyone. Mm-hmm. It really takes a sense of productivity, a sense of momentum in your own life, and a sense of intelligent exploration of how do you build systems for yourself to begin with, before I think people have the kind of recognition that you may have had when you read GTD.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, what do you think some of the challenges might be for someone that's just getting started with getting things done?
Well, they're all the challenges of the best practices. The best practices are not, they're not hard. Write stuff down, decide a next action, put things on a list, look at your list. Come on, this is not like some new technology or foreign language. These behaviors are all very obvious, very easy to do. But not doing any one of those four things consistently is where you'll fall off. So the biggest challenge you have is okay. The first challenge you have is to start, and it's probably the major admonition that I have. It's called stop using your psyche as a capture, remember, and remind system. It sucks. It does not work that way, and it's really just a mechanical process. If you actually did like I have, you just sort of explore. Wait a minute. What happens when I get stuff out of my head? Write it down. I instantly feel more in control and more focused about what it is, and instantly open space to have more creative ideas about it. Because the brain gets to let go of placeholding responsibility, gets to let go of decision-making responsibility. It just gets to let go once I can trust it's out there, and that also that I have behavior to then loop back around and engage with it. So all I did was sort of unpack and tease out all of the discrete, essential behaviors and components of what it is that we do that gets stuff onto cruise control for us psychologically. You don't have to finish it to get it off your mind, but you do have to make sure you've captured what the thing is that's potentially meaningful to you, decided exactly what it means to you, and then once you've made that decision, park the results in some appropriate place, and that then you trust you'll come back and review and access from a larger gestalt in terms of your life, and then you're clear. Doesn't mean you've handled the problem. It doesn't mean you've finished it. It does mean that the thing is on cruise control in terms of some part of your psyche gets to go, thank God. Okay, I've now decided what needs to happen. It may be that right or wrong made the right decision, but I don't need to keep trying to bang on your head, Glenn, and remind you, hey, Glenn, there's still something you think you need to do, and you need to do that. And I'll wake, that sucker will wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and beat you bloody about something you can't do spit about, nor is it the best time to be doing the thinking. So unfortunately, the world we've grown up with assuming that our psyche could manage all of that. It can't. And I don't know, I guess I'll preach till I'll be 67 next month. It's like, I suppose I'll preach to the end of my days that thing because, and there's lots of reasons. We can get into the detail on that, but there's a lot of reasons I think why people feel scared of letting stuff out of their psyche. So maintaining a sense of control is why I think a lot of people are addicted to just keep stuff in their own head, or why they don't think that it's better to get it out of your head and get it into a more objective, reviewable, externalized system, as opposed to sort of sucking it up into your psyche that never stops 24/7. So I just discovered the algorithm about how you actually get that tension and pressure off the internal part of you by building a systemic process and a way to engage with that, so that part of you gets to let go. And and the best news is then it frees up your creative energy to be focused much more on what it ought to focus on, as opposed to all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I know at the time when Getting Things Done had come out, I was a fan of Steven Coveys' 4-quadrant system, and when I read that particular piece in Getting Things Done about get it out of your head, it was a real epiphany for me. It was like, wow, he's so right. This makes total sense. And thinking about that time period, and thinking about Steven Covey's system, if you had to contrast the two systems, how would you contrast the differences of Getting Things Done to what Steven Covey had done?
They actually map together very well. If you think about investing in the process of emptying your head, right, of everything that's in there, what quadrant do you think that sits in?
Probably the important or urgent, I guess. Urgent kind of comes more to mind, I guess.
Important, not urgent.
Or important, not urgent.
If it were, you would have done it. Everybody would have done it, right? So the whole sharpen your saw. Thank you, Steven. I mean, Steven was great stuff. It was really good. It probably needed the next step of that ladder was to bring it down to much more operational. How do you actually apply what that process is? But if I'd say, look, all of GTD and applying those practices is in the upper right quadrant. And by the way, Steven didn't make up that. The late great Steven. I mean, God bless him. But he didn't make that quadrant up. But I was teaching that quadrant 30 years ago, and But the idea is, anything that requires you to then step off and work on your own process to improve that process so that you have better capability to do whatever it is you want to do, is, just maps absolutely to that. And of course, the Covey model had a lot of focus on the higher horizons in terms of your commitments with yourself. Why are you on the planet? What are you really about? What really matters to you? Where are you really going? And boy, I mean, God bless, I read First Things First and was totally inspired. So that's great stuff. But then, of course, you need to translate that down. If you don't have the capability to execute that on a way that's seamless, that you go, wow, I can't wait to then throw that new idea into my in basket because I know how to then process down to the execution level. Some part of you will then start to hold up and block your own creative process because you don't trust you can execute on it. And so your mind says, look, I'm gonna stop giving you ideas because you don't execute on them, and so you feel bad enough already. You don't need any more until you can build a capability to be able to execute on all the different horizons you have commitments. And it's down at the lower, more mundane levels of horizons that we have commitments about. If I ask most people, and I do a lot, okay, write down everything that's on your mind. Take 2 minutes and just dump your head. Very few people in the first 10 things write down fulfilled destiny as human spirit on the planet. What do they write down? Babysitters quitting, budget, bank, mom's birthday, next holiday. And very appropriately so. Why? Because those are foreground in people's consciousness. So you need to sort of get control of those. But if you don't handle those and feel like you have the confidence to handle that level of commitment with yourself, then some part of you is going to stop your process of engaging in higher and more sublime levels. So I think that's the big difference, is I just added the next component, which I think was needed, to that, which is how do you manage execution at the more operational and mundane levels of your life with the same level of elegance that you do the upper levels.
Perfect. Yeah, totally makes sense. And I think that was really one of the things that stood out for me, as you're saying, is that what's really on your mind? Well, it's the babysitter quitting. It's those kinds of things that are happening in people's lives that really there was nothing, in my opinion, there was really nothing, before Getting Things Done came along, there really wasn't anything that really kind of helped with that. Not to the same level anyway, because you're right, you had to keep thinking about it and coming up with it. And
the truth is that there is stuff on your mind about your life vision and your high values that still needs to be applied. You still need to apply this process at those higher levels. It's just that you probably won't get to those until you shut the noise down that's on the lower levels, because they're noisier and they're changing faster and they're creating more of the stuff that's sort of grabbing people's psychological space. So for sure. And that's a lot of the sort of immediate and urgent stuff that shows up. It's called, wow, my God, I suddenly got a package from FedEx that now I have to do X, Y, and Z, or I just got a call from my mom. Oh my God, now I need to. And so being able to feel comfortable that I can engage with that level of granularity of my engagement with my world and still have room for and align that with all the other bigger picture stuff. I think that's the great challenge of the art and craft of self-management now. And I just added some, needed components, I think.